I actually started playing professionally while I was still in high school. I needed parental supervision for most of the gigs that I played. My mother, bless her, she's just so cool. She went with me almost everywhere. There was a local big band in Philadelphia, my hometown. There was a fella named Joe Sutler. He's a baritone saxophonist, and he had a big band. Any professional musician, you know, that was the ultimate gig to have, because they played all of the shows in Philly. They played private parties, weddings, big concerts, all kinds of jazz, whatever it was, R&B. You know, that's actually where I learned Hava Nagila, you know, playing in bands like that, you know, playing tangos and waltzes and all. I mean, it was a beautiful band to start out your professional career in, because you learn about all different styles of music. You knew how to play for the crowd. You knew how to gauge the audience to be able to tell when it was okay to go into your heavy jazz stuff and then come back to playing what the audience wanted. So that was a good band for me to start in. I started playing in his band when I was about 15. There in the back. Not well. I played just enough piano to be able to write and compose and arrange, but I wouldn't dare play in public. And the same thing with drums. I can keep a little time, but that's about it. On guitar, I could play, you know, D9 and just play funk all night long. But I could play good rhythm guitar, but if I start playing lines, forget it. I got these big bass fingers, so every time I try to play lines on the guitar, I'm always getting caught. My hands I'm hitting 3 strings by accident. Somebody over in here had it. Yes, sir.
What would you say your biggest influences?
That's a tough one. I would probably have to say a man named Ray Brown. Ray Brown was probably my biggest influence because he became a very close mentor off the stage as well. Once I got a chance to know him away from the bass, he really did become like my second father. So Ray Brown was a huge influence. And on the electric bass, Jaco Pastorius has always been my biggest influence. And that's because of my dad. My dad was also a big Jaco fan. And so my introduction to Jaco was hearing my dad trying to rip all of Jaco's lines. I was like, wow, that's kind of hip. What is that? He's like, oh, that's nothing but some Jaco. I was like, wow, Jaco, I got to check him out. So he's still like one of my biggest heroes. Always will be. This young man over here.
What type of bass do you like to play more, electric or acoustic?
It depends. It depends on the band. It depends on the music. I probably would say I like playing acoustic a little bit more. Just, you know, it's Mother Earth. You know what I mean? It's like the ground. It's the soil. It's just like you feel that big, nice, warm instrument vibrating on your body. It just feels really, really nice. But the electric bass is cool too. You know, I mean, I would much rather play. I mean, there are times when the electric bass are perfect for what's being played on stage. So it depends on the music. Yes, sir.
Do you play any rock?
Sure. I love playing rock. You should come hear my regular band one day. You'll need your earplugs. I actually, I played in Sting's band for a couple of years, which was actually not really a rock band. That band was actually very quiet, believe it or not. It had its moments when it got loud. I also played with guys like Rob Thomas, some other loud rock guys I played with. I don't want to start calling names since I've said the word loud, but yes, I've done a few rock gigs, and I love it.
Would you consider playing hip hop and mixing with jazz?
That's already been done.
Okay.
A lot of people have done that. I've done it. My very best friend growing up in Philadelphia, well, I had two best friends in high school, a great organist named Joey DeFrancesco, who some of you may know, and my other best friend was Questlove from The Roots. So what The Roots have created in hip hop and R&B, I kind of watched it grow from the very beginning. And we did a CD about 7 years ago called the Philadelphia Experiment. And that was one of the more popular experiments in hip hop and jazz. So yeah, I think there are a lot of good musicians out there kind of fooling around with that hybrid. You know, to most musicians, it's all music. You know, there's always ways that you can try to blend the elements so that it makes sense, you know, so it's not arbitrary. I think a lot of guys who really don't really know their craft, they don't really know the history, they don't really know how things go together, they start trying to put it together to be clever and not really thinking it through. But a guy like Questlove, he knows about as much about the history of jazz as he does the history of rhythm and blues. So a guy like he and I get together, if we start trying to blend hip hop and jazz, I think it'll be somewhat more cohesive than some other guys. So yeah, I love trying to blend hip hop and jazz. I love freestyle rappers because they're improvisers. You have to think like a paragraph ahead. That's pretty heavy.
Do you have
My buddy here.
do you have a feeling of which direction jazz music is going in at this point?
He asked, do I have a feeling on where jazz is going? No. That's the beauty of it, you know. You think it's going one way, then all of a sudden you go, hey, wait, let's go over there. No, let's go back over here. Well, let's go both places. And so that might open up a new road. So we'll see what happens. Anybody else? Because see, I know what's going to happen. This is what happens worldwide. They'll ask questions after this is over.
Save it for tomorrow.
We're not going to do that. So
I have a question. Did
yes,
you play in when you were in school? Did you play in the orchestra or the band? Or,
absolutely.
I mean, did you play in both, the orchestra and the band?
Well, there were a bunch of different orchestras that I played in. There was the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra. Temple University had a youth chamber ensemble. They had a youth orchestra. They had, of course, there was the All-City Orchestra. The All-City Band was pretty much, well, they had All-City Orchestra, All-City Band, and All-City Jazz Band. The band was pretty much like concert band, just
Did
for
you
like,
play, the street bass at the concert
oh, a lot
band?
of classical music. I mean, that was,
No, I mean in a concert band, a wind band. Did you play
I never played
no,
a,
or
no,
or anything like that?
no.
Yeah.
I did briefly try to play the trombone, but that didn't last but maybe 20 minutes.
It's usually the trombone players pick up the bass.
Right.
So you'd have a classical background then.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yes, all of my training was classical. As a matter of fact, when I went to college, I went to Juilliard. That was before they had a jazz program. I went there to study classical music because my dream originally was to somehow have a dual career playing classical and jazz. But I didn't realize that there was no such thing as a freelance classical bassist. Now I just thought you could like pick up gigs with a symphony on the weekend. Man, give me the set list. I'll share it on these movements. But it didn't quite happen that way. Yes.
When your mother went on your gigs with you,
Yeah.
if you would rush, did she slap you?
If I what?
If you rushed, did she slap you?
If I rush? No, the guys in the band would do that. No, my mother just wanted to make sure nobody had any shady dealings going on. She wasn't concerned with the music. Hey, Gary.
So, you know, not too many people in the world get to the point where people start talking about them like they're the best in the world at what they're doing. When you get to that point, and you're at that point clearly,
Am I
Where-
at that
where
point
does it-
clearly?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
goodness.
Well, plenty of people are saying it.
It's not good to hear.
Where does your sense of growth come from when you're at that sort of real upper echelon, sort of from day to day? I learned this new thing, or I took this out, or where do you find that?
Everywhere. I certainly, most musicians who are worth their salt don't get caught up into necessarily what other people think about them. Obviously, I'm glad to hear it when someone likes what I do, but my goal through life is to get better because I'm acutely aware of my weaknesses all the time. I don't really harp on my strengths because, you know, they're my strengths. I know as long as if I play every day, that's going to, at the very least, maintain. It's what I'm weak at that I try to get better at, you know, and that's, you know, expanding my vocabulary. You know, I work on the piano a lot at home. I'm trying to write more often. That's probably the biggest facet of my development that I've been working on lately. I'm not bad at it, but I'm not quick at it like I would like to be. And, you know, just always trying to put myself in situations where I know I'm going to be challenged. There are some musicians that I get very scared playing with, but I like to work with them often because I know that's going to make me grow. You know what I mean? Like a guy like Jeff Tane Watts. I play in his band sometimes, and his music is extremely difficult. You know, you rarely get 8 bars of 4/4 in a row. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a 7/8 bar in there somewhere, or like some weird thing with the time is superimposed, and you know, I'm going to have to think really hard to make sure I don't get lost. You know, and there's a part of me that, you know, every time he calls me for a gig, there's a part of me that goes, ooh. Here we go. I'm going to get exposed, but I like being in that position because it makes me better, I believe. So that's where the growth comes from. You always want to get into a place where you're playing with musicians who are just going to, you know, challenge you, you know, expose you. Those are the kind of people you want to be around. That's where the growth comes from. Yes, Tim.
You have several different bands that you work in different kind of configurations.
Yeah.
Why do you like to have one band you work with?
That's actually, there's 2 answers to that. One's musical, one's business. One is because, and I think it's kind of, just from a business sense, it's good to have 2 bands, 2 different identities, a certain band that you can bring more people to, that way they can hear your other band, and you just pick up more fans that way. But also on a musical level, it kind of relates to what Carrie was asking about, you know, growth and putting yourself in a situation where you're forced to grow. I kind of sort of have 3 bands now, or 3.5, that I've been working with somewhat semi-regularly. There's my regular band, the Christian McBride Band, which is somewhat of a hybrid between like acoustic straight-ahead jazz and rock and funk, or whatever you want to call it. It's like somewhere in this gray area. And then I started this quintet, which is a very hardcore traditional straight-ahead, which is a whole lot of fun. I have this turntable band, which Tim, of course, you were responsible for debuting here in Monterey about, what was that, 2 years ago now? 3. Really? Wow. Time is flying. Yeah, what happened was my regular band was booked to play the Monterey Jazz Festival 3 years ago, and two guys couldn't make the gig, Jeff Keyser and Terry Ungully. So I didn't want to hire substitutes and still call it the Christian McBride Band and play our regular repertoire. So, you know, I figured, well, maybe now's my chance to kind of come up with something. So Patrice Rushen was here playing with Lee Ritenour for the festival, and my good friend DJ Logic I asked to play. And so I had this talk about experimental, you know, we didn't rehearse, we hardly even talked. Just because they flew in the night before the concert, we only had a few minutes to kind of talk about something, said this will be 1000% improvisational. Let's just go up and see what happens. And it worked. It worked very well, and to the point now where that band has expanded. Now I have DJ Logic and Jahi Sundance spinning turntables, so there's 4 turntables on stage. We have Mesa Leak, a wonderful vocalist who used to sing with a band called Incognito. She's our vocalist. Either a fellow named Walter Smith III or Ron Blake plays saxophone. And Patrice plays keyboard. So that's kind of like my underground hip-hop party band, whatever you want to call it. And then I have a big band I do gigs with every now and then. That's part of the whole growth with composing and arranging, so I've been getting that together. So it's always good to know I have a band that can work somewhere, somehow. So it works musically and on the business side too. Yes? One more time, too.
Yeah, just sort of a follow-up. There was a large piece that you wrote that you were commissioned. I'm not sure of the organization.
Right.
It was like
LA Phil.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Tim is referring to a commission I got from the LA Philharmonic. I'm there. The official title is Creative Chair. I help with the programming for the jazz concerts with the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl and Walt Disney Concert Hall. So last month, the biggest piece I've ever written in my whole life, as a matter of fact, it almost killed me writing that much music in the middle of touring. I was on the road with Pat Metheny, and I'm trying to figure out how to get some time. I just needed a couple of hours every day to get to a piano and write, but it was hard to do. But anyway, the piece was called The Movement Revisited. Comprised of 4 movements dedicated to Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it's a piece I wrote in honor of them and the entire civil rights movement of the 60s. So we had 4 actors. We had Carl Lumley as Malcolm X. Carl Lumley was from the TV show Alias. Wendell Pierce was Martin Luther King. Wendell appears on The Wire. We had Loretta Devine as Rosa Parks, and we had James Avery, Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was Muhammad Ali. And we had the St. James Sacred Nation Gospel Choir, led by J.D. Steele, and I had an 18-piece big band. So I'm glad that music is written, and I don't have to worry about writing another note for that piece. Oh, I was stressing. Hardcore, man.
Is that available on recording?
No, that concert just happened, so I'm hoping we'll get it. It'll be NPR recorded, so there'll be an NPR broadcast at some point.
Did you write the script too, and the words for the play?
The words were the actual words of those particular people. I just picked quotes from each person to use in the piece. Yes? Wayne Shorter. Well, I think Wayne Shorter is like, yeah, I firmly believe that he is the undisputable greatest living jazz composer. Certainly the most influential. I mean, he's right up there with Duke Ellington. You know, I think most modern jazz has been heavily inspired and influenced by Wayne Shorter, Chick Corea as well. But, you know, I've been influenced by so many different people, you know, just because I'm trying to work at getting better at it. So my range of influences go from Duke Ellington on down to Wayne, you know, through Horace Silver, through Thelonious Monk, to Chick, of course, as I said, Herbie, and a lot of Wayne, and great big band arrangers like Oliver Nelson and Lalo Schifrin, and, you know, film composers like Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams. Listen to a lot of those cats, so try to put all of that in there, you know, just dump it all. Get a big messy gumbo. Yes.
Did you go to Juilliard right after high school? Or
Yes.
Did you spend your full time at Juilliard, or did you leave early?
Well, no, I did not, but because I was fortunate, once I got to Juilliard, I started working right away. I had been in Juilliard for about 2 weeks, and I started working with Bobby Watson's band, Horizon. And then not too long after that, I started working with Freddie Hubbard and Benny Green. So all this was going on my freshman year of college, and it was very obvious that I was going to have to make a decision, either gig or go to school. You can't do both, because I was, I'd be working till 3 o'clock in the morning, have to be orchestra rehearsal at 8 o'clock. And classical music for bass, you got like 64 bars rest at a slow tempo. So I had only had like 3 hours of sleep, so I'm sitting there like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. And I'm just hoping one of the other bass players in the section will get my back and wake me up when we get to 64. And because I'm always banking on the, at some point the conductor's going to stop somewhere in that 64 bars and rehearse something with the rest of the orchestra. And then, of course, when we come in, we will hold a whole note for about 8 bars, and they have 32 more bars rest. So I said, man, I don't know if I can do this. But I would not suggest, if all of you have the opportunity to go to college, you better go and you better stay. My circumstances, I think, were a lot different than other people's, so don't get this romantic idea that you're going to go to college and start gigging right away. You take the opportunity that you have and really milk it out, and if you don't find yourself in a situation where you can leave school, don't. I actually loved Juilliard a whole lot. I did not want to leave, but also I knew that Juilliard would be around forever. Freddie Hubbard would not. Benny Golson would not. So I said, let me take this opportunity to play with these cats while I have it. And then at some point later on, I will go back and finish my studies. I don't know if it'll be in performance. I thought about being a history major, because I love studying history. I love composition. So at some point, I would like to go back and get that together. So, yes, my dear. With composition? Composition for me is like fishing. I'm just sitting at the piano and I'm waiting for something to bite. So I'm playing these just notes and these melodies. It could be a chord, it could be a rhythm or whatever it is. And I'm, ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, okay, I got something. And then I start building on it, But it could be one of any, like I said, it could be a rhythm, it could be a certain particular chord change or some kind of melodic line. Could be a combination of all of those things. And how do you know when you're finished? You just know. You could keep going, because, an idea can certainly develop a million different ways, but at some point you start to realize that you've made the statement that you want to make and let it be that. I think the more you write and the better you get at it, the more those questions are answered easily. Chick Corea is great because I've seen Chick, he's so prolific. I've seen the guy sit on the piano and, I'll say, it's almost 11 o'clock now, and I could say to Chick, I need a tune by 11:45. Chick go, all right, what tempo you want? And he'll sit on the piano and have he said, man, I wasn't really sure how you wanted it, so I brought you 3 tunes. You know what I mean? Chick is just so quick like that now. I want to get to that level. Yes.
Christian, thinking about all the, like where you are, your vantage point and your music and all the different things that you do and that you've done, like in a straight ahead vein, and then I'm thinking of albums like Vertical Vision and all these things that you've done. Where, I mean, nobody really knows, but like where is the music business and like that, where do you see?
Business?
Yeah.
We need another workshop on that. We'll be here all day talking about that. I will say that I tend to look at from where I see it, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So although the record labels are dying, justifiably, I think that now is a good time for artists, because I think you can write your own ticket. You know what I mean? If you do your own research and learn how to make this current situation work for you, I think it could be really good. Yes, Tim.
Follow up on the business part. You've had some pretty good managers and business people that you worked with. How important is that to a young musician's career or a mid-career?
This young, don't even think about managers. Please, you got to worry about your instrument first. A manager, think about what that means to manage. It means you have a bunch of things going on that need managing. If you're not that good, don't need a manager, because they're going to have nothing to manage. You don't want to be like a pop star where you're short on talent but heavy on looks. You know what I mean? Jazz is the only style of music where if you're really kind of at a halfway point in your development, it's obvious. It's glaringly obvious. And this is the only style of music, and classical as well. Pop music, we all know, even guys in junior high school, most people you see on the top 40 charts are actually not that good. They might be cute, but they're not that good. So I would suggest for you all to concentrate on getting better. So you'll have managers knocking on your door. Don't go after a manager. Let them come to you. So once again, you can write your own ticket. Take some business classes, figure out what's going on out there, but don't go out there chasing after managers, because you go out there chasing, you might catch a rat. Let the rat come to you, and then try to figure out, that's right. Try to figure out how to make him a prince. Do we have time to play another?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make time.
All right.
You want to hear play again, right?
Yeah.